I know you grew up a fan. You know, when you're working with Denzel, that was years ago now. How many years ago was that? 10?
13 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
13 years ago.
Yeah.
What was it like to work with Denzel Washington? What is it like working with him as an actor? What is it like transferring your brain from I'm working with Denzel to now I'm directing Denzel? And how do you direct Denzel Washington? Just give me your whole Denzel experience.
How do you know to ask that question? Because that is the question. The last one you just said, how do you direct Denzel Washington? I'm not going to even call it a Jedi mind trick because you're not playing any mind tricks in The Ultimate Pimp. He's just got that kind of social IQ. He's got that otherworldly emotional intelligence. While we were developing the script for Book of Eli, it was a script, and then Denzel came on, and he was magical. Like we would go to his pool house and just break the script down, magical. But when it came time to roll film, he as he says, goes between his ears. And the first day I'm like, what's up? He's not the same guy. He just goes in and he does his thing. But to his credit, to me, pound for pound, when you look at the stat sheet, I think he's the greatest movie star of his generation. Period.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
And I'll draw a parallel to Tupac in a second, but go ahead.
No, I agree, because when you look at the charisma, the looks, the talent, the longevity of the talent.
That's right. The gravitas, theatrical, Broadway actor, right? $20 million payday actor, and he's black. So you can only compare him to like Mel Gibson in his prime, because Tom Cruise is more of a movie star, and Tom can act too, don't get me wrong.
Tom can act, but he's not at the consistent level of Denzel Washington. He doesn't try to do that.
No.
And I don't think he can do that.
No, but Mel Gibson was the close, like Mel Gibson's a real actor before all the I don't want to
digress because I'm like, oh, you're bringing up Mel Gibson.
Who else can you go? Because I don't want to get in trouble because I'm a film director. Like when you look at the 80s and 90s, Daniel Day-Lewis, okay? Daniel Day-Lewis, my only challenge with Daniel is it's always antiquated roles, like turn of the century roles. Daniel, look at Johnny Depp's career, an incredible, dynamic, interesting career. I don't know if Daniel Day-Lewis can do that. I don't know if Daniel Day-Lewis can do what Mel Gibson did or Denzel Washington, but I don't know if they can do what he did. So it's apples and oranges. To answer your question, though, about directing Denzel, it's so similar to Tupac. Like no batteries required, no direction required. Like you don't need to do much with those guys come with.
What is his process as on the set? I mean, you're me up here because you said like in the pool house we're breaking down the script. Before we go to the process on the set, when he's breaking down the script, talk to me about that. Like, what do you remember? I know it's a while ago, and I know you're not taking notes at the time on, to give it, for this podcast, but like his understanding of a script and character, how is he articulating that?
He told, he's going to be mad at me for outing him on this one because this is hilarious. But he taught me a lot about a leading man's role in developing the script once he comes on. Like me and my brother made some critical errors in Dead Presidents, I feel, with Lorenz Tate's character. You never put your protagonist in a position of getting dissed and not going back and getting his payback. When Cuddy did that thing to him, like Denzel would never have that. And Denzel used to sit and this is hilarious. At one point he would stop and he would count pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 pages. The money's not on the screen. What are you talking about? That's 7 pages. The money's not on the screen. That's 7 pages. His character's not on screen. That's a no-no. And like classic Clint Eastwood, like this is the anti-hero spaghetti western or post-apocalyptic or even Training Day. That's 7 pages. He's not on the screen. And it never came across like self-centered or narcissistic. No. It came across like a real like science to the way you do these things. And he was really wonderful with like understanding what made a scene work or not work. This needs a button right here. Or the bad guy should say. He did a lot of writing on the Gary Oldman role. He would play it out in front of us. Carnegie in Book of Eli. Denzel would, because Gary Oldman wasn't hired yet. In fact, it was Denzel's idea. He goes, it would be great for this Gary Oldman. And he would play it out like he was Gary Oldman. And he would improvise. And a lot of Gary's lines in the movie was Denzel punching the script up in his pool house while we were woodshedding it. So he's a wonderful writer. The scene work he understands. He inhabits the other role. He knows what to do with his role. And he knows when the scene's working or not. And he knows how to, I don't know, he didn't force it. He was incredible. He was incredible. And he was incredibly collaborative. That's why it was so shocking the first day of shooting when he became a different version of himself. And now I understand why.
I love this. Yeah. I love this. When you're working with him on set, I worked with Samuel Jackson, and he is, when I worked with him, he knows what he wants to do, and he just does it over and over, and he smacks it. And that was just a little film that I did with him. Gary Oldman seems like he might be like where he's trying different things. And you could talk about Gary Oldman too within this. Is Denzel, and then you could also talk about Gary Oldman, is Denzel like, this is how I'm going to do the scene, I'm locked in, and I'm just going to kill it, or is he one of these where you hear about actors' choices, finding it, which would say maybe Daniel Day-Lewis might be like, I don't know. I know when I worked with De Niro, he's ramping up during it. He's starting, what is Denzel's sort of process within a scene that, it's written, it's rehearsed, he's shooting. What is his process like within a scene?
It's pretty dialed in at that point. I want to say more. He's, especially on Book of Eli, he was in his Eastwood mode where it's like two take Jake.
Okay.
I pushed the third one because that is a role of like subtlety and not a lot of what he's known for, talking. It's not a lot of talking. There were scenes where he would get playful, but I found it amusing because the first day that we had to rehearse with Gary Oldman was Gary Oldman's first big scene where he apprehends Denzel and brings him, his henchmen bring him into the office. So we're at the end of a shooting day, and Gary Oldman, who I adore.
He's sick.
And he is such a sweetheart, too.
He's sick.
Is he underrated? He's definitely not overrated. In the early 90s, we knew. I don't know. Well, I think he's gotten his due now. Thank God.
He's gotten his due.
He's gotten his due.
I mean, I think we forget about him. He's almost like, talk about basketball, like you talk about point guards. He's almost like Rod Strickland. You'd be like, oh yeah, Rod is crazy. But you might talk about Magic, Isaiah, Steph.
The obvious ones,
and
right?
then you'll go, oh, Rod. Oh, right.
That's
Gary
right.
Oldman's like, oh yeah, he's.
That's right. There's a table that's his desk. We're at the end of the day, but we have to rehearse the big scene that's up the next day. And Denzel, he's still in this, in the Book of Eli clothes, and Gary starts going, all right, so what if I did this? And he starts walking that way, and he pulls the chair and goes, what if I did it? Denzel's got a script in his hands. And then Gary goes, you see Gary like working the space, trying to figure out the physicality of being the man that's in power of this town and having this guy captured Eli. And Denzel's holding the scripts, and after 5 minutes, you just see his shoulders slump, and he puts them down and he goes, we're going to do some work right now. Because Gary was really meticulously working. And to Denzel's credit, it was Denzel's idea, which I love, to have to ask Gary to do the role. But I didn't think he bargained on such a detail freak. And Gary would, once we started shooting, Gary would want to try